Ever get that, that feeling you get like when somebody does you a favor and then you feel like you just have to return it, like you're obligated?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out
Right.
that feeling,
Yeah.
reciprocity we call it, is a really powerful force.
It really is.
It shapes pretty much everything.
Oh.
From like how we deal with each other personally, in our relationships, to even how entire societies work.
Right.
So today we're going to really do a deep dive into this whole idea of reciprocity.
Yeah.
And we're going to explore like how important it is and uncover some surprising insights.
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me how this ideal of giving and receiving underpins so much of how we humans interact.
Yeah, that's
Really.
Yeah.
And we're going to be drawing from research across different fields too. Sociology, economics, psychology, all sorts of stuff, just to understand how deeply ingrained this whole reciprocity thing is.
I'm ready to get into it.
Let's do it.
So let's start with just a good, clear definition.
Okay.
What exactly is reciprocity? And why should we care?
Reciprocity at its very core is this social norm, this idea that we should respond in kind to the actions of other people.
Okay.
So when somebody does you a favor, you feel like you should return that favor, right?
Yeah.
And likewise, if somebody harms us, we might feel inclined to retaliate.
Yeah.
It's this sense of obligation that we have
Right.
that forms the foundation of so many of our social interactions.
Right. Yeah. It's like an unspoken agreement almost.
It is.
That keeps things balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than just bartering.
Yeah.
Sociologist Alvin Goldner argued that this idea of reciprocity is fundamental to how stable societies are.
Okay.
As fundamental as things like the incest taboo.
Wow.
He saw it as a universal norm, like present in every society, shaping our behavior and also shaping our expectations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're comparing it to the incest taboo.
Yeah.
That really kind of puts the importance into perspective.
I think so.
But if it's like so universal, how come there's still
That's a great question.
so much inequality and conflict in the world?
Well, Goldner also recognized
Yeah.
that reciprocity doesn't always lead to things being perfectly balanced or fair.
Okay.
Power dynamics, cultural differences,
Right.
individual motivations can all influence how reciprocity plays out.
Yeah. So it's not always like a simple equation, right?
No,
Like
it's
that
much more nuanced.
You did this for me, I'll do this for you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's more complicated than that.
Okay.
For example, let's take the time between giving and receiving.
Okay.
The time between can have a huge impact.
Right.
It's that period of waiting, of feeling indebted.
Yeah.
That really strengthens social bonds and creates that sense of like, I owe you one.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not just immediate tit for tat.
Right.
It's about like building trust over time.
Exactly.
And like fostering a sense of like interdependence.
Yeah. Think about a close friendship.
Yeah.
That's built on a history of you doing nice things for me doing nice things for you.
Right.
Supporting each other, understanding each other.
Right.
It's that ongoing exchange.
Yeah.
The sense that, hey, we're in this together.
Yeah.
That makes that relationship strong.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's another sociologist, Talcott Parsons.
Yes.
Viewed this whole idea of reciprocity.
Yeah.
Through the lens of what he called mutuality of gratification.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so Parsons basically thought that social systems work best when everybody involved is getting something out of it, some benefit, some satisfaction, So for a system to thrive, there needs to be this feeling that, hey, we're all getting something back from this.
Yeah.
And this implies reciprocity.
Okay.
That individuals are both contributing to the system and then receiving something back from it.
Okay, so it's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Everybody's playing their part and everybody benefits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Parsons also knew that power dynamics could lead to exploitation. He pointed out that even in a system based on reciprocity, there's potential for one side to benefit a lot more than the other.
Right.
Especially if there's like a power imbalance.
Right. It's like those online marketplaces where people are working.
Yeah.
They might feel pressured to accept really low wages or like conditions that aren't really fair.
Right.
Because they really need the income from the platform.
Yeah.
So There's an exchange, there's services, they're getting paid,
Right.
but it doesn't feel reciprocal.
Exactly. It doesn't feel fair.
It highlights how important it is to consider the context
Right.
and the power dynamics involved when you're thinking about reciprocity.
Yeah.
It's not just that there's an exchange happening.
Right.
It's about how fair is that exchange and is it really mutual?
Right, so we've got this really complex idea that can both strengthen social bonds,
Absolutely.
but also be a tool for exploitation.
It can?
I'm really starting to see how many layers there are to this.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And to understand those complexities even more, let's look at some real-world examples of how reciprocity shows up in different situations.
Okay, let's dive into those examples and see how this concept plays out in our everyday lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So welcome back to our deep dive on reciprocity.
Back into it.
Before we get to those examples,
let's go back to that study you talked about earlier.
Okay.
The one with the Bulgarian and American students.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The one by Koford
Yes.
in 1999.
Yeah.
Where they did a game to look at how different cultures approach reciprocity.
Right. It was a game involving trust.
Yeah.
And exchanging money.
Yeah, exactly.
And what they found was really interesting.
Yeah.
The Bulgarian students were way more likely to trust their partners.
No.
And to engage in these reciprocal exchanges, even when there was some risk involved.
So does that mean that cultural norms play like a big role?
I think so, yeah.
Like in societies where community and interdependence are really important, maybe reciprocity is just like more ingrained.
Yeah, I think that's a very plausible explanation.
Yeah.
These differences between cultures show how much context really shapes our understanding and how we do reciprocity.
Okay, so real world examples.
Yeah, let's start with online communities.
Okay, like those online spaces where people share reviews, give recommendations, tips, all sorts of information.
Right, yeah.
I could definitely see how reciprocity comes in there.
Absolutely. So this study in 2016 by Pei and Tsai, they found that people in these online communities, they often feel obligated to share their own knowledge after they've benefited from other people's contributions.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like this unspoken rule.
Right.
You take something, you give something back.
Especially in a place where information is so available.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But what makes people feel this sense of obligation?
Yeah, is it just fairness?
Well, it's not just fairness.
Okay.
These researchers, they found a few key things. Feeling supported by the community, enjoying the experience, finding the information valuable.
Yeah.
All those things make someone more likely to reciprocate.
So it's not just cold, calculated exchanges.
Yeah.
You know, it's also about feeling connected.
Yeah, exactly.
And wanting to contribute to the group.
Absolutely. There's that social emotional part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move out of the digital world and think about another interesting example.
Okay.
Intergenerational transfers. Specifically, the support adult children give to their parents as they age.
Yeah, that's like a classic reciprocity example.
Right, exactly.
Parents invest in their kids, and then later on, the kids reciprocate by caring for their parents.
Precisely. So economist Joel Gutman, in his 2001 study, he explored this dynamic in detail and argued that this support, it's a form of reciprocity, a way to repay the investment that parents made.
Wow, it shows the long-term implications of like everything we do.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like we're always planting seeds that will hopefully pay off later on.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but Gutman also recognized that this reciprocity between generations, it's not always a given. Things like economic development, having other support systems like pensions available can influence how this all works.
So as societies get more modern and people become more independent, do those bonds of reciprocity weaken?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Pensions and Social Security, those things, they can provide a safety net.
Yeah.
But they don't really replace the emotional, personal parts of family support. It's possible that those formal systems reduce some of the pressure for that direct reciprocity, but they don't get rid of that underlying obligation or the desire to care for loved ones.
Yeah, it seems like there's a balance between the needs of individuals and what society expects when it comes to caring for older generations.
There is, definitely. And it's probably going to get more complex as population get older and families keep changing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears to another place where reciprocity is crucial. Market transactions.
Buying and selling.
Yeah, buying and selling.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
How does reciprocity fit into that?
Well, in a lot of developed economies, we tend to think of market transactions as just that. Transactions, you pay for something, and that's it.
Yeah.
But in a lot of developing economies, trust and informal agreements based on reciprocity are often way more important than like formal contracts.
So your reputation matters.
Exactly.
Like if you're trustworthy and a reciprocal person.
That's your currency. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And in those communities, if you break that trust, that can have big consequences, social and economic consequences, damage your relationships.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to do business later on.
Wow. So something that seems so intangible can actually have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Are we losing that?
That's a good question.
That sense of trust?
Yeah.
Reciprocity.
Yeah. As societies become more individualistic, more globalized.
That's something researchers are still trying to figure out. Yeah. There's evidence that suggests that globalization and technology, while they connect us in new ways, might also be wearing away at some of our social norms. Including reciprocity.
Yeah.
As our interactions become more anonymous. More transactional. It's possible those reciprocal bonds weaken.
It's like a trade-off, right?
It is.
We gain efficiency, more access to goods and services. But maybe we lose those personal connections and then the trust that comes with them.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. No easy answers. But one thing's for sure. Reciprocity, in all its different forms, is still a powerful force that shapes how we behave. And while people can manipulate it, twist it, at its heart, it shows that we have this desire for connection, fairness. And that we want things to be mutually beneficial.
I'm telling you, this deep dive.
It's really eye-opening.
I'm glad.
I'm really starting to see how something so basic can have such a huge impact on us.
It does.
And on society.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But before we wrap things up,
I'd
like to explore some of the more challenging parts of this. Because let's be honest, it's not always warm fuzzies and good feelings. Right?
Not always.
So tell me about this dark side of reciprocity.
All right, let's do it.
So welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We've been talking about all these different sides of reciprocity, you know, how it helps build those strong bonds between people, but also how it can be manipulated.
Yeah, it's a powerful force.
Yeah.
But it can be used in ways that aren't so good.
Right. And that's what I really want to get into.
Okay.
Like, how can something that's supposed to be positive be used in a bad way?
Well, one way is this thing called reciprocal concessions.
Okay.
So imagine somebody asks you for a huge favor, something you would almost definitely say no to.
Right.
And then they back down.
Okay.
And they ask for something much smaller.
Yeah.
Something more reasonable.
Okay, I've seen this before.
Right. It's like that old sales trick. Yeah. Where they start with a crazy high price so that anything lower seems like a great deal.
Yeah.
And because we humans are wired to reciprocate when someone makes a concession, we feel like we gotta agree to that smaller request. Even if we didn't really want it in the first place.
Right.
Our desire to be fair, to keep things balanced, that can actually be used against us.
So our own sense of fairness can be used to make us do things
that's true
we wouldn't normally do. It's pretty sneaky.
It is, but it works.
But yeah, it's effective.
It is, and it's used all the time.
Yeah.
Negotiations, marketing, even in our daily lives.
Right.
Another tricky area is gift giving.
Oh yeah, gift giving.
It's supposed to be about showing you care.
Right, like affection, appreciation.
Exactly.
But it can feel like a burden, an obligation,
Yeah.
like a social expectation.
Yeah, you're right. It's really tied into reciprocity.
It is.
But those expectations can make it so complicated, especially during holidays or special occasions. It's like you don't want to seem ungrateful.
Right, exactly.
So you feel like you have to give a gift back.
Even if I can't afford it.
Right, even if it stretches your budget.
Yeah.
Or you just don't wanna.
Or I don't really wanna.
Exactly.
Right.
And all that pressure can lead to stress.
Right.
Financial problems. Even resentment.
Wow.
It turns something nice
Right.
into something that makes you anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like those times when people are trying to outdo each other with gifts.
Exactly.
It's not about being generous anymore.
No, it's about showing off.
Right. Status. Who has more money?
It's not about the thought behind it.
It's not. And that's another way reciprocity can get messed up.
Yeah.
Instead of making relationships stronger, it becomes a competition.
Right. So are we saying no more gifts?
No, not necessarily. Gifts can be a really good way to show you care.
Yeah.
But you got to be aware
Yeah.
of those expectations and make sure your giving is coming from the right place.
Right.
Don't put pressure on the person you're giving it to.
Like, check your motivations. Am I doing this because I care?
Yeah.
Or am I trying to keep up with somebody else?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Or just fulfill an obligation.
Right. So, at the end of the day, the goal is to use reciprocity for good.
Yeah.
Not to manipulate.
Right.
Or burden people.
It's been an awesome deep dive.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah, I'm really seeing how important this basic thing is for our lives, for society.
It affects everything.
It really does.
Yeah. So what now?
Okay.
What can we do with what we've learned?
Well, first, just being aware of how reciprocity works in everything we do, from small interactions to big social systems.
Right.
And then think about your own reasons for doing things. Like, are you doing it because you genuinely care?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to get something out of it?
Yeah.
Manipulate someone.
Right.
And then we can all work to create environments where reciprocity is encouraged, but not forced.
Okay.
Where those exchanges feel balanced.
Right.
Fair.
Yeah.
And where we focus on real connection and respect.
Yeah. I like that. That's really good advice.
I try.
Yeah. Understanding this reciprocity thing.
Yeah.
It seems like it's really important for building a better world.
I agree.
This has been great. Really thought-provoking.
That's what we aim for.
It really has.
Yeah. And as always, we encourage you, the listener, to keep thinking about this.
Yeah.
Notice how it affects your life. Right.
Your choices, your relationships. Yeah. You might be surprised by what you find.
This is The Deep Dive.
Signing off.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening.